Have you ever stopped to consider that maybe everything you've been told about God is incomplete? Wait, this isn't heresy, it's revelation. For centuries, we've been taught to look upward, to imagine the divine as a distant figure enthroned somewhere beyond the clouds. But what if that distance is just an illusion shaped by fear? And what if, instead of searching outside, the true miracle had always been quietly knocking right there in your chest? Here's a truth few have dared to tell you clearly. There is a powerful, living, pulsing force inside you. It's not a metaphor, it's not a concept, it's real, and it's waiting to be awakened. In this video, we'll travel through ancient beliefs, explore traditions that rarely speak to each other, and uncover something astonishing. Despite all the differences, they all point to the same forgotten truth. And the best part? You don't need dogmas. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be willing. What you're about to hear isn't trendy spirituality made to impress. This is meant to stir you, to wake you up, to set you free. Get ready to question everything you believe, because once this key turns, you'll never feel disconnected from the divine again. You'll realize he was never far. You were just too distracted to notice. The sacred above, in the heavens, in a distant temple. Since the earliest times, human beings have looked to the sky in search of answers. The vastness of the heavens, scattered with mysterious stars, always seemed like the perfect place to house something superior, untouchable, a god out there, above everything. It's as if distance itself gave the divine more authority. The farther away, the more sacred. That's why so many traditions place the divine atop mountains or within grand, unreachable temples. This image of a distant sacred being still shapes much of our spiritual imagination today. It's interesting how this idea even influences how we pray. How many times have you seen someone instinctively look upward when they speak to God? To many people, God lives up there in some kind of invisible palace, in a separate dimension. Yes, that distance creates reverence, but it can also bring a subtle sense of abandonment. After all, if he's so far away, can he really hear me down here? Ancient scriptures have echoed this idea for centuries. In biblical stories, God appears in thunder atop mountains or hidden behind thick clouds in the Holy of Holies. In Hinduism, the gods dwell in celestial lokas. In Islam, Allah is beyond all human comprehension. In every one of these traditions, the divine seems far. But does it really have to be that way? Or is there something deeper behind that distance, something we're about to uncover? Mystical experiences and the temple within. At some point on the spiritual path, many people begin to realize that maybe the sacred isn't so far away after all. You know that quiet moment in the middle of deep pain or during a powerful meditation when something inside you seems to expand? That's it. Without warning, you feel something divine, not out there, but here within. It's the first whisper of an ancient truth. The most powerful temple you'll ever find is you. Throughout history, many great teachers have pointed to this. Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is within you." Buddha taught the path of looking inward to end suffering. Christian mystics, Sufi poets, Hindu yogis, all in their own way pointed in the same direction. The sacred is a flame that burns within. You don't need to climb mountains or cross deserts. Sometimes all it takes is to sit in silence and breathe. Those who've touched this connection know just how life-changing it is. We're not talking about theory, we're talking about something raw and real. It's that sudden sense of peace without explanation, that intuition that shows up out of nowhere. That tear that rolls down your cheek in prayer, uninvited but deeply true. And then the question begins to echo. If God is within, why have we spent so much time searching outside? The illusion of duality as one reality. The human mind loves to divide things, light and dark, right and wrong, high and low, outside and inside. But does that separation really make sense when we talk about the sacred? Many wise ones say this division is just an illusion, a tool the mind uses to try to grasp what lies beyond it. If the universe is a vast, interconnected web, where does the outer world end and the inner one begin? Maybe there were never two sides, just different ways of perceiving the same truth. When a Tibetan monk meditates in silence for hours, he's not escaping the world, he's merging with it. And when someone looks up at a starry sky and feels a sudden chill of wonder, that too is spiritual. Outside and inside are just different doors leading to the same sacred space. It's as if the divine is in everything, but only those who learn to see beyond duality can truly access it. And that's where the real challenge begins. This perspective changes everything, because if the divine is present in all things, in the sound of the wind, the eyes of a child, even in the awkward silence after a mistake, then every moment becomes an altar. Every breath becomes sacred. There's no need to choose between temple and heart. Both are mirrors of the same field of consciousness. But what happens when someone forgets this truth for too long? The experience of presence in the now. So many people spend their whole lives chasing some extraordinary spiritual experience, a sign, a vision, a miracle. But the sacred doesn't shout, it whispers. And the place where it whispers the loudest is right here, in the now. Being present is like tuning into a frequency that was always there, but drowned out by hurry, guilt, or fear. Those who learn to be fully here, in this moment, discover a presence that can't be explained, only felt. Want to feel the divine right now? Try stopping. Take a deep breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Listen to the sounds around you without judging them. These simple practices, which might even feel silly at first, can open a door within you. Zen masters call it mindfulness. Christian mystics call it the prayer of the heart. Being in the present is like cleaning the mirror of the soul. Slowly, the reflection of the sacred begins to shine through. But there's a catch. The present isn't always comfortable. It's where our doubts live, our unhealed wounds, even that deep sense of emptiness we keep trying to cover up with distractions. And that's exactly why the divine chooses the now. It's where we are most real. Still, many people, even when they hear this inner calling, keep looking for more distractions, almost as if they're running from something that's been waiting for them all along. Inner resistance. Why we fear looking within. Looking inward may sound like an invitation to peace, but in practice, it's anything but easy. It's like opening a door that's been locked for years, only to find everything we tried to hide. Wounds, guilt, fear, frustrations we thought we had long overcome. That's why many prefer to seek God out there, in temples, gurus, and doctrines, rather than face their own spiritual reflection. The problem is, what you don't face rules you from within, silently. There's a part of us that fears our own light. Sounds strange, doesn't it? But it's real. Because light reveals, and once something is revealed, it can't be ignored. When you begin to see yourself as a temple, as a dwelling place for the sacred, you can no longer outsource the responsibility for your life. You begin to understand that spiritual evolution isn't comfort, it's confrontation. And no, it's not always pretty, but it is always liberating. Some people avoid this path by using spirituality itself as a distraction. They read all the books, take the courses, light the incense, but won't sit for one real minute of silence. And let's be honest, nothing is louder than the silence that exposes what's wounded inside. Even so, it's in that moment of inner confrontation that true transmutation begins, because you have to face the darkness to uncover the light that lives within it. The sacred in the small things, when the divine reveals itself in the everyday. Some people spend their whole lives waiting for a miracle, not realizing it already happens every morning. Waking up, breathing, smelling fresh coffee, seeing sunlight spilling through the window, all of it is divine. But because we're always waiting for something extraordinary, we miss the sacred hiding in the small things. The secret lies in the lens. Those who look with presence see the infinite hidden in the ordinary. It's there in the simple moments that the divine hides, out of pure tenderness. Have you ever noticed how a sincere conversation can heal more than a rehearsed prayer? Or how the right hug at the right moment feels like it realigns your soul? It's in those deeply human moments that the divine chooses to show itself. And no, it doesn't require complex rituals or special lighting. Sometimes all it takes is an attentive gaze, one that chooses to see beyond the surface. That in itself is already a spiritual act. That's why many wise teachers say to wash the dishes with the same care you would use to light a candle on an altar. Because everything can become prayer, everything can become temple. True spirituality is not an escape from the world, it's a way of inhabiting it with reverence. And when that shift happens, even the silence of an ordinary afternoon can reveal more of God than 1,000 theories ever could. The unity of traditions, different paths, one same essence. At first glance, it may seem like each spiritual tradition is saying something completely different. One speaks of heaven, another of nirvana, another of enlightenment. The words change, the symbols shift, the rituals vary, but underneath it all, the message is surprisingly similar. All these paths speak of reconnection, of returning to the source, of awakening to something greater. It's as if they were different rivers flowing into the same ocean. When we study deeply and with an open heart, we begin to see that the core is always the same: love, compassion, awareness. Whether you're reading the Sermon on the Mount, the Yoga Sutras, or the verses of the Tao Te Ching, you can feel a universal wisdom that transcends time and culture. And that's no coincidence. It's a sign that spiritual truth doesn't belong to any one people or religion. True spirituality is inclusive, not exclusive. The beauty of this realization is that we don't need to pick one path and reject all the others. We can learn from the Christian mystic and the Zen monk, the Amazonian shaman and the quantum physicist. Everything can be a source, everything can be a compass. And this understanding opens incredible doors, because when we recognize the unity behind the diversity, a new way of relating to the sacred and to each other begins to emerge. Living as a temple, acting as an expression of the divine. Knowing that the divine dwells within us is transformational, but living from that truth is a whole different story. It's no use having a mind full of spiritual theories if your actions remain disconnected. Those who understand they carry a temple inside begin to act differently. They speak with more respect, listen with more presence, and even in small gestures, something greater shines through. To live as a temple is to turn daily life into a living liturgy. It can start with the simplest choices, forgiving even when the ego craves revenge, helping someone without expecting anything in return, listening to truly understand instead of just waiting to speak. These are the acts that turn an ordinary life into a sacred one. It's when actions align with what the heart already knows that spirituality stops being an idea and becomes a lived experience. Because in the end, spirituality that doesn't touch your life is just beautiful theory. And when you begin to live this way, something shifts in the energy around you. People feel it. The atmosphere changes. You become that calming presence, not because you're above anyone, but because you're more in touch with what's real. To live as a temple is to remember in every gesture that the sacred is not just something to seek, but something that reveals itself in every choice, every word, every look. Is God outside or within? The journey of the sacred and spiritual traditions. Now that you've heard all of this, tell me, does it still make sense to keep searching so far away? Or maybe it's time to quiet the noise out there and finally listen to what's been screaming from within all along. Maybe the real question isn't where is God, but what in me is still resisting finding him? The answer is in you, and it begins the moment you choose to walk with more awareness, more presence, more truth. And what if everything you've heard today was just the beginning? What if the next step is turning every one of your actions into an expression of the sacred? The world doesn't need more spiritual speeches. It needs people who live as walking temples, those who breathe compassion, who light up what they touch, who inspire goodness without even needing to say a word. So tell me, what will you do with this knowledge now? Will you let it pass as just another inspiring video, or will you put it into practice? If this journey resonated with you, if some part of you woke up, then subscribe to the channel now, turn on notifications, and walk with me. There are still many secrets to be revealed, and this was only the first door we've opened.